At the United Nations Global Warming Conference, paleoclimatologist Jack Hall warns delegates of an impending global icing event that, according to their findings, could occur within the next couple of centuries. Continual excessive use of fossil fuels, Jack warns, could lead to warmer climates, which, in turn, could lead to a new ice age. After the conference, Jack meets Terry Rapson of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and the two share findings on their respective fields. In Japan, a freak weather storm causes disruption when huge blocks of hail rain on pedestrians. Back at Terry's monitoring station, some men detect a sudden drop in temperature in the ocean. In the International Space Station, astronauts note several massive storm systems forming across the planet's surface. Terry then notes the sudden drop in temperature and sees even more temperature drops being recorded. In New York, Jack's son Sam arrives with his friends, Laura and Brian, to join a decathlon meet and notice a massive flock of birds all flying westward. Terry later calls Jack and tells him his predictions were not only correct, but are happening sooner. Jack adds that an event similar to this hasn't happened in the last 10,000 years. At a weather monitoring center in California, a technician gets word that hail has started raining on the beach. He warns his colleague that they have to issue a tornado warning in California. Not long after that, gigantic whirling pillars of air form and decimate downtown Los Angeles. This sudden weather phenomenon catches people off guard, and panic and destruction quickly overcome the streets. As soon as it arrived, the giant tornadoes dissipate, leaving Los Angeles in tatters. Back at the weather monitoring station, Jack and his colleagues scramble to figure out what has happened. They find out that areas across the globe are all experiencing the same destructive weather occurrences. Jack tells everyone that the mid-Atlantic current could be the cause, and the weather events won't only continue but will worsen. Jack then meets with the vice president and tries to warn him but gets a cold shoulder. In Scotland, 3 military helicopters pass through the eye of the weather system, and their instruments start freezing. Helicopter rotors freeze mid-spin, and the 3 choppers crash. A soldier survives and tries to flee but freezes instantly the moment he opens the door. In New York, Sam and his friends are stuck with all flights cancelled. They try to use the subway, but the tunnels are flooded. With no warning, a supermassive tsunami appears wreaking havoc through downtown Manhattan. Jack and his friends flee to a library building with countless other civilians lucky enough to escape the storm surge. Terry and Jack communicate and learn that the freezing air that brought down the helicopters is from the upper atmosphere. Usually, this air would warm up as it descends, but the weather systems are causing the air to move down too fast, freezing everything on the surface. They also find out that their predictions were off, and the storm will be coming in a few days, not in a few weeks. Jack shows the weather prediction, and 3 massive weather systems are forming across the globe, getting worse each day. This storm, Jack predicts, will change the planet. Back in New York, Sam contacts his parents through a submerging telephone line. Jack tells him he must stay inside and wait for the storm to pass as it's only going to get worse. He advises him to gather as much food and insulation as he can. Jack then decides to head to New York to get Sam. Jack then briefs the heads of state of the situation and tells them the worst is yet to come. He suggests evacuating everyone in the southern states to Mexico. The vice president disapproves of this, asking Jack what he urges the people in the north do. Jack answers that people in the north are doomed to die if they set foot outside their homes and advises they too must hold out and stay inside until the storms pass. The president decides to take Jack's advice and orders the National Guard to evacuate the remaining population to the south. In New York, the refugees in the library spot a crowd of people venturing into the frozen ice cape in hopes of reaching warmer states before the snow gets deeper. Sam tries his best to warn everyone, telling them they won't survive in the storm and that they should all stay inside, but the crowd still decides to leave. Only Sam and a handful of people are left in the library. After a heartfelt phone call to his wife, Jack sets off for Manhattan with Frank and Jason, his 2 colleagues and friends. At the Mexican border, vast crowds of Americans are trying to cross the border, even traversing the Rio Grande. Back at the library, Sam and his companions raid vending machines for food and gather books for burning in the fireplace. Jack and his crew eventually run into a roadblock and have to make the rest of the way on foot. Being researchers stationed in the North Pole, Jack, Frank, and Jason are used to walking long distances in the cold. The men are trekking on top of a building when Frank breaks the glass and falls in. He gets caught by their lifeline but sees that more of the roof is giving way. Jack tries to pull him up as Jason holds the weight, but Frank sees the glass cracking and decides to cut the line to save his friends, sacrificing himself. In the library, Laura gets a fever and falls unconscious. The group tries to figure out what's happening to her and discovers that she's potentially suffering blood poisoning from a wound infection. She needs an immediate injection of penicillin, or else her injuries could lead to amputation or death. Sam decides to head out to a nearby cargo ship that got washed in to look for medicine and food. Brian and another guy, JD, decide to accompany him. At a military base, the vice president finds out the president has died. Researchers also get word from the International Space Station that the weather system affecting North America has moved over to New York. It would soon be pulling super cooled air from the upper atmosphere to the surface, freezing everything. Jack and Jason make their way through New York, but Jason collapses from exhaustion, and Jack has to carry him. In the library, the trio also heads out to the grounded cargo ship, unknowingly putting themselves in harm's way when a hungry pack of wolves catches their scent. Sam, Brian, and JD make their way to the ship's mess hall, and Brian finds penicillin. As they rummage through the kitchen, the wolves come in and attack JD. Brian and Sam fight the wolves and save JD but get stranded inside the mess hall. With JD's foot mangled, they must find a way back to the library. Sam sees the sky clearing up and deduces they are in the eye of the storm. Sam then plans to make his way outside and lure the wolves away from the mess hall. Hay then runs through the ship, narrowly escaping the wolves, and doubles back to Brian and JD. Sam and Brian drag JD rushing into the library, seeing frost and ice descending from the sky. Meanwhile, Jack drags Jason with him and sees the sky clearing up and realizes they'll get caught in the eye. Knowing everything will freeze soon, he hurries to find an open vent and throws Jason inside before throwing himself in just as the ice descends. Sam, Brian, and JD make it into the library in the nick of time but see the frost entering the room. They scramble to get the fire up, throwing more books and wood in, desperately getting the room to warm up. Jack also struggles, knowing a fire is the only thing that can save him and Jason. Jason wakes up and sees ice all around him. He sees Jack had managed to start a fire using an open stove. With the eye of the storm already passed, Jack is determined to continue into Manhattan. The two rest for a night, contemplate the future of humanity. Jack says humanity survived the last ice age, but if careless, might not survive this one. In the International Space Station, astronauts confirm the storm is dissipating, seeing land mass appear on the surface for the first time in days. Jack steps out of their tent and sees a massive ship frozen in place. They start their trek again, walking past the Statue of Liberty. The pair finally reach the city and see the whole bay frozen and the city buried under several meters of snow. They find the library, barely visible out of the snow, and find the fireplace where Sam and the rest are sleeping with a burning fire keeping them alive. Jack and Sam are finally united. In Mexico, the heads of state receive transmissions from Jack, informing them of survivors. The president then addresses the nation, telling the country that survivors have been found in New York despite tremendous adversity. A vast search and rescue operation is underway to retrieve anyone stranded in the northern states. Helicopters finally reach Jack and the group, and they fly south. As they pass through Manhattan, they see more surviving pockets of populations on rooftops awaiting rescue. In the International Space Station, an astronaut looks down upon the changing planet, remarking the sky as the clearest he's ever seen. Subscribe for watching more videos like this. Thank you for watching and see you next time.